Hey guys, thanks for having me here. Just as a warning, my presentations tend to be more visual than with text. So I'm here to talk about connected fitness things that matter. And just to get right into my background, I spent the last good 8 years working with bringing a lot of the research that you guys have been part of to the market with notable companies, and then spun off with my own startup, working with a major university in Virginia with strength and conditioning, in the strength and conditioning space. Sorry, I ran over here, so I'm a little out of breath. I also spent the latter 14 months or so working with the enterprise, also working with some of you here, Baker Hughes, Track Labs and the like, to bring a lot of the wearable technologies to the hands-on worker, field services, manufacturing, and the like. So why am I here? I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my research, some of my work that we brought to market, mostly from my startup's point of view. I want to talk about what users expected on the consumer side, and I'll touch upon a little bit on the enterprise side, and versus what was actually delivered based on the technologies available today. Talk about the lessons from that, how we will take that and build safer, interoperable, and user experiences for these wearables that matter, that create value. All right, so quick overview as to where we are. You guys, a lot of the researchers in academia and a lot of these established companies initiate the technology trigger, and then there's this massive hype that either have the consumers and a lot of businesses either adopt and see value or completely reject some of these technologies. In the case of Google Glass, where I spent a latter 5 years focusing on before it was launched publicly to the market with Google, we noticed that over time, in the consumer space anyway, it was a little frowned upon to wear Google Glass. That's probably why you don't see me wearing it right now. In the enterprise, on the other hand, a lot of value was seen, and we're in the maturity phase. I've since left the enterprise space to go back into the startup world for consumers to bring a lot of what we find as lessons learned to bring valuable wearable technology software to the market. So that's a little bit of a background. What we did at LynxFit was to work with strength and conditioning trainers, work with the consumer directly to create content. Our major difference was that we were trying to allow fitness experts to create exercise plans and programs that they can then distribute to a wearable computer. And it actually worked. That was one little piece of it that actually worked. Because you found that when a user had their hands free, they could actually engage in an entire circuit, for example, an exercise circuit, while we listened to the kinematics, the motion of the person, interpret the semantic information from the sensors in these wearables in order to provide value. And by that I mean to provide guidance and what we call the virtual coach. You had the device speaking to you within the speakers in the wearable device to count your steps or count your reps, your repetitions, and store it automatically for you. And you also had encouragement, and this was especially good for some of the beginner fitness seekers or health seekers, some of our elderly customers, some of our obese customers that are easily discouraged early on. So in the case where the personal trainer wasn't right in front of the user remotely, the personal trainer could virtually coach. And by giving them that information to actually have the computer actually guide them, we also gave the personal trainer vital information to help improve the type of user-generated content that they provided for more customers. And also, if the user opted in to share kinematic information, so metrics, as this is how I'm improving, they could then go ahead and connect with the user and better inform them on how to achieve their goals. And this actually worked for the short-term consumer release of Google Glass. It was actually one of the most downloaded apps in the Google Glass App Store. It's since been discontinued. Popular enough that we had this is a little brag moment, I'm sorry. We had the founder of Google actually inform us that he actually used it with his team, and we're just here showing him things that were coming in the future. So what are the lessons learned? We found out, both in the enterprise and in the consumer space, that users expected more. They expected something more like one of my favorite watches. They expected something that had no heat dissipation. They wanted it miniaturized. They wanted a set of features that they deemed as valuable. What they got was a little bit more. They got a little bit more than time, date, and speed. They got steps, they got apps, they got an extension of their mobile on their wrist. But as a trade-off, they lost the ability to keep the device on their wrist for multiple days. At the most, we get a week, a month in the case of smaller fitness bands. On the UX side, what we realized was that there was limited context. You noticed a lot of consumers and businesses ended up not using their devices because there was no context. They were just getting data, 10,000 steps. Well, what does that mean? There was limited context there. There was unverified content. Unfortunately for a lot of consumers today, and even businesses getting wearables for their jobs, there's no way other than download counts, comments, and likes on the consumer side to verify that the actual exercise on this app or this Fitbit is actually giving me value or is actually safe to use. And no one really focuses on that, and that's pretty dangerous. Also, contextual user experiences is very valuable. We talk about this all the time in the academic side, that rather than just give a person a set of things to do, how about just sort of providing additional value and context and say, when I'm at the gym, give me gym-based workouts. When I'm in the park, give me Tai Chi or things that I do at the park to stretch or run for the like. On the hardware side, you guys know this all too well. The price was a little high, again, focusing a little bit more on the consumer side for a consumer. The performance, heat dissipation for head-mounted wearables, battery life is the big one, and comfort. I should add another one, how it looks for the consumer, right? That was a huge one. And then, of course, interoperability or connectivity. A lot of the consumer manufacturers are focused on their own ecosystems, and that's no surprise because that's how they create value for their systems that they're building. And so what you found out was these fiefdoms that sort of cropped up. Apple did its own thing, and eventually now, ever since I started doing these talks, things are starting to open. There's standards that are evolving around a lot of these ecosystems. But then, of course, you've got one body doing a standard, you've got another body doing the standard, everyone's got their own standard, and then there's a third standard. There's no real standard. So as a result, there's fragmentation, and that's something that we need to work through as an industry, and a lot of leading companies like Intel and Google are working on that. We went back, I left enterprise world to go back to live with the experts, the fitness experts in my field that I wanted to focus on. And we adopted this sprint methodology by bringing something new to the market, an intelligent connected fitness thing to the market. It wasn't hardware. It was a piece of software that lived on top of a lot of consumer brand apps and wearables out in the market. A lot of iterations before we even wrote a line of code. And what resulted was a way for a medical professional or a certified personal trainer or someone who deemed themselves a fitness expert to create and curate proper safe exercise programs, what we call plans, distribute those exercise programs to people through apps and the normal channels, places through beacons. So you attach a beacon to a thing, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So through the app, you just send the plan to a place. Yep. And lastly, things. So extend the capability to watches, smart glasses, and the like. So with apps, the user just got the app through an SMS, and they're able to go through the program remotely and give the expert back information. With places, the expert got information as to which machines or which zones are being used more, and again, information and basically motion information based on what the user was doing. And then, of course, as I just explained, things. So as a result, expert is able to give the user, in addition to the computer, a lot more data-backed guidance while they're working out or while they're achieving their goals. In summary, smarter interfaces that have context, that are interoperable, that talk to other things, provide solutions that users really want and need. And hopefully, these three items, security, privacy, interoperability, I didn't really touch on security and privacy too much, optimized interfaces for context, are the things that we are looking to improve upon in order to get a lot of the research that a lot of us do in this space into the real world market. So things that actually matter and create value for these users when it comes to wearables. Thank you.